So it recently came to my attention that my last brand design video was over 2 months ago. So let's change it. I've recently been watching the live action version of Cowboy Bebop, and oh my god, it is fantastic. So I thought today's design could take inspiration from that. I'll be designing for an interstellar diner named Meateor Burger, a sanctuary and safe haven for interstellar travelers, offering a wide variety of greasy burgers, crunchy french fries, and calorific milkshakes. The only catch is, they're in space. I'll be using my design skills to create an out-of-this-world brand that also feels like a second home to space travelers. Let's go! Alright guys, the first thing I wanted to show you was the mood board that I had prepared. In the mood board, I had a lot of rounded, bubbly fonts, along with images of burgers and sundaes, even like a diner sign with the diner interior. I also had retro packaging for burgers as well, along with also an image of a comet or a meteor because I wanted to integrate that sort of shape into the logo design itself. But you can see it brings a lot of feelings of nebulas and the cosmos, even subtly with the background behind the burgers and the milkshakes. It really does look like a nebula or some sort of outer space cosmic background.
The prophecy is true.
And for the colours, I went with a lot of blues and purples to represent that sort of space theme. But I also integrated like a yellow and a peachy pink just to represent the food, with the yellow leaning more towards the burger side and the pink leaning more towards the ice cream and dessert side. So the first step after creating the mood board was to go and look for fonts on Google Fonts, which is exactly what I did.
No, it's true. It's true.
While looking for fonts, I was really trying to find those big, bubbly, chunky fonts that matched what was in the mood board, and I shopped around for 8 or so different options. Looking for fonts is actually just quite similar to online shopping. You know, you're not just looking for any product, you're actually looking at the reviews, seeing which one best suits your needs. Not that fonts actually have reviews, but you're looking for ones that match the direction that you want to go in. So of course, I'm steering away from script fonts, thinner weight fonts, any more decorative type display fonts, really trying to stay with that heavy sans serif look, because you know, this is for a diner that sells big chunky burgers, so you want a big chunky font to match.
Who wants a fucking burger?
I don't know about you, but I wouldn't want to go to a diner that had thin font in its logo, because it almost implies that the food would be less filling and it would be more of a healthy experience. But when I go to a diner, I want to have big greasy burgers with lots of ingredients stacked to the max. So after I shopped around on Google Fonts, I just put the fonts into Illustrator and I just started a process of elimination. So when you're looking on Google Fonts, you're kind of just looking at the fonts in isolation. But then once you bring the ones you downloaded into Illustrator, you can kind of compare them all and see which ones suit you best. So fonts that I thought previously matched the vibe now don't in comparison to the other ones that I picked. So I can quickly get rid of the ones that don't actually match the direction and hold my focus onto those bigger, chunkier fonts that I really need. In the end, it was a fight between this more retro style typeface and the more bubbly one that you can see on top. I opted to go with the more bubbly one because I felt that the retro one felt a bit cold, and I feel like if you were drifting through space and you found a diner, you would want it to feel more welcoming and homey. In the end, I chose this one, and I believe this font was called Titan 1. So after I chose the font, it was time to manipulate it. And now my idea was to turn the O in Meteor into an actual meteor. So to do this, I just duplicated the O, sent it to the back, enlarged it so that it had a thicker outline, and then I was using a combination of the pen tool and the stroke width tool to create the trails for the meteor. Now initially I wanted the trail to go horizontal over the top of the word mark, but I couldn't quite get the angle of the trail to match with the counter in the O, so I then tried making the trail shorter and a bit more vertical, which actually really seemed to work. And then on either side of the main trail, I just used the same techniques to do 2 smaller trails so that it looked like the O was kind of covered in fire as it was crashing down onto a planet. I then just brought the entire O forward so that the trail kind of slightly overlapped the E and the R, but not too much that it would make the E and the R unreadable. I kept zooming in and out so I could check the readability of this, and it actually worked out very well. The final idea I had was to change the counter in the O to an actual burger. Who knew that a diner called Meateor Burger would have a mashup of a meteor and a burger for its iconography? Definitely not me! To do this, I just took the original counter of the O to be used as the meat portion of the burger, and then for the buns, I just used the pencil tool and adjusted the smoothness and fiddled around with the transformation of it, just until the buns looked somewhat consistent with the shape of the meat. I then made all of that burger element a compound path, grouped it up with the O, went to the Pathfinder panel, hit exclude, and voila, we have a burger counter.
Nice.
I tried so many times to get this to work because I don't usually play with the Pathfinder panel at all. So I was trying to use the shape builder tool to do this, which did create the counter, but it didn't let me move the counter around in the middle of the O. The only way I could do this was using exclude in the Pathfinder panel, which shouldn't it yield the same result because the shape builder tool is literally just the Pathfinder panel, but done in a different way. But of course, it doesn't work like that, so Illustrator just hates me as usual. What is new?
Be nice.
I'm finding it.
It take you that long to find it?
It does.
So after I'd finished the Meateor edition, it was time to add all of the colours. And let me tell you guys, this is probably one of my favourite colour palettes that I've ever done. As soon as I added the colour to the logo, it literally brought it to life and I was so happy with it. It definitely had that feeling that I was going for, that cosmic nebula type energy, while also kind of making me feel hungry with that orangey yellow and that peachy pink. After I added the colours to make sure it worked, it was time to create the lookups. So for these, I just wanted a simple stacked lookup. So I took the word burger from the logo and just stacked it underneath Meateor, and that created what I wanted. And then another one was to just take the Meateor Burger icon I created and have that by itself, just so that they could have like an app icon or a mark they could use if any of the other lookups didn't fit the space. And then the final lookup idea I had was to create one that resembled a neon sign, much like a diner.
Can I get a waffle? Can I please get a waffle?
So I did this just by placing the word burger underneath the word Meateor again, but this time centrally aligning it. And then I got two rectangles to place behind the logo and joined them up with the shape builder tool. I then got rid of the fill, added a stroke and made it a bit thicker. Then I had the idea to use the scissors tool to cut some of the portions out of the top of the sign. This way it just added some dynamics and made it look as if the neon sign was low on energy or was flickering a bit, because you often see in movies and television that the neon sign on diners is like flickering in the distance. I just thought that was a cool idea that I wanted to implement. And then this lookup can be used as more of a display logo, particularly where there would be a lot of space and they would like to show the logo off in more detail. I added all of the colors to the new lookups and they all looked fantastic. My favorite lookup definitely had to be the neon sign variation in the bottom left. I just really enjoyed the contrast between the dark purple and almost the off-white lavender purple. And I think the bright blue Meateor really tied it all together, and it kind of reminds me of Final Fantasy VII's logo. I don't know if you guys have played that game, but it is fantastic. If you haven't played it yet, go and play it.
Cloud? Is that you? Oh my god, that makeup! And that dress!
Nailed it, I know, thank you. Moving on.
And the last thing I needed to do was, you guessed it, create a pattern. In this, I wanted a lot of interstellar imagery, so I got a UFO, I designed a little star, but then I also wanted things for food. So I created like a milkshake sundae and also made a burger that looked like a planet that had one of the rings of Saturn around it. I also made sure to give this burger some sesame seeds so it actually looked like a burger and not just a circle. You cannot forget the sesame seeds on your burger, guys. Otherwise, is it truly a burger? I don't think so.
Child. Anyway, so
when adding color to these illustrations, I was just trying to avoid the off-white lavender color because I was going to use that as the background for the pattern. So just sticking to the dark purple and all the rest of the lighter colors. When I was ready, I just went to Object, Pattern, Make, and I was just trying to arrange the illustrations so that they looked right. Just moving them around, adding a bit of rotation, trying to get a good balance. A good tip for you guys when making a pattern is that any illustration that overlaps with the right edge would bleed over to the left edge on the other side, and it's the same with the bottom edge, it would bleed over from the top.
Since you got your degree and you know every thing.
So you can use this to fill gaps and make the space feel more evenly occupied. So after a good God knows how long of fiddling with the pattern, we finally ended up with this, and I think it looks brilliant. I could easily see this being used as like burger wrappers or as like a mural in the restaurant itself. I was really proud with how this pattern turned out, and it really brings that cosmic feel to it, while also keeping it quite welcoming, family friendly, and personal. And so guys, the last thing that I have to do now is showcase this brand to you. So, without further ado, here's Meateor Burger. Thank you guys so much for making it to the end of this week's video. If you enjoy what you watch, make sure to like, share, comment and subscribe. All the support is much appreciated. If you want to watch some of my other videos, why not try checking out the recommended ones by my side. If you want to help me out that little bit more, you can buy me a coffee on Ko-Fi. The link is in the description. And with that guys, I hope you have a lovely weekend and I'll catch you next week. Bye!